Hi guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. In this video we're going to be looking at Rare Collection 1 on the Evercade Alpha. Let's get started with the video. Okay guys, so we're going to be looking at Rare Collection 1 on the Evercade Alpha. We've got 12 games, a bit of a mixed bag here. We've got some console games, we've got home computer classics from Spectrum, and we've also got an arcade game on here. Just one, right enough, so might not be the best cart to buy for your Evercade Alpha due to a few various reasons. Obviously controls are probably one of them. But anyway, without further ado, let's get stuck into the games. There's 12 to go through, so I'll go through them briefly and I'll give you my thoughts on how they actually play on the Evercade Alpha. But anyway, let's have a quick bash at Attic Attack, which is actually a Spectrum game. The first Spectrum games on Evercade systems, and that does actually look quite cool. Graphically superb. Now, you don't need to choose keyboard, Kempston joystick or anything. All you can do here is choose the Wizard, Knight or Serf as your character, and then just press start. And you're trying to find keys to open this door here. And your energy is constantly going down, so you need to try and replenish that as best as you can. Now, interestingly enough, I felt that the joystick control is actually good, but I just felt maybe it was just a little bit oversensitive. And it kind of made me think a little bit like, so a lot of the Spectrum games weren't really designed, initially for control on a joystick. Obviously, you had the options on Spectrum, but a lot of the games were designed for like keyboard use. So a lot of the times it doesn't feel quite perfect, and maybe just feels a little bit oversensitive at times, and it just feels like, yeah, it does feel like it was designed entirely for obviously keyboard input instead, but still it plays nice enough. It does look really nice, doesn't it? Unfortunately, yeah, Spectrum doesn't sound that great, so you might want to turn the sound down a little bit. So next up we've got Battletoads, which is the console version or the NES version of Battletoads. I think this might have been the first Battletoads game, which was obviously trying to capitalise on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles market at the time, which was going absolutely crazy, very, very popular. I'm not sure it was as popular like the NES, in the UK than it was in like the North America territories, for example. And we were probably too much focused on the home computers, Spectrums, Commodore 64s, even the Amstrad as well. This game is quite good fun, but does get pretty tricky at times, so you're going to have to utilise using those save states extensively whilst playing this game. As you can see, graphically, these games definitely seem to pop on the Alpha. You can see graphically, just the colours just pop out at you. And it actually surprisingly plays really nice on the joystick here. Now, obviously these games weren't really designed to play on a joystick, they were designed to play on a D-pad, so even considering that, the control method seems absolutely fine. Lovely game, but it gets harder. Personally, I think I would always rather play Battletoads Arcade. Let's have a look at it. So this is the only arcade game on this collection. This has a mixture of sort of console, home computer and arcade games, which is a little bit weird. I guess they've just sort of thrown out the colour coordination thing out the window a little bit. But this game is fantastic, but with only one arcade in this collection, I'm not sure I could totally recommend it as a whole for your Alpha specifically. Even though it's a good collection, I actually enjoyed playing through it, and it's one of those collections I think you'll get more out of it the more you actually play. Now this one would certainly be much more fun playing as a multiplayer, which sometimes playing multiplayer games on the Alpha, it's a bit tight squeeze. You obviously need to have someone sitting next to you looking over your shoulder, and then you can play as 3 players as well, which again, the viewpoint is a little bit tight, so it doesn't make an awful lot of sense. Ideally you want to be playing these on a larger screen TV rather than on the small Alpha monitor. I think the Alpha is really more or less designed for single players really. You've got the option obviously, but it's not really meant for that purpose. See, I am a huge fan of this game. I loved it when it was on Rare Replay and I played it a lot. We played it through to completion, mainly as a sort of multiplayer game. rather than on my own, because it was much more fun playing with someone else to actually help you go through the game. It was definitely highly enjoyable. I'm actually surprised this wasn't a success at the time. I don't think it was actually officially released, and it was kind of canned, which is quite surprising. But it's a great game. Don't let that put you off. It's absolutely fantastic stuff. Okay, on to another NES title now. We've got Cobra Triangle. It's like you're a speedboat and you're playing through different sort of skill challenges and races, that type of thing. Not really a game I was familiar of at the time. I didn't have an NES, so a lot of these games, NES games, I wouldn't have played at the time. NES games were probably a bit too expensive for me. When you could pick up home computer games for £2, £3 in the UK, it made sense to sort of everyone to buy one of them rather than expensive NES games, which for a com might have been like £20 or something for one game. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Obviously we had the full price games on the home computers, which were generally about £10–12 or something, but a lot of people probably just waited till they came on the budget labels, maybe a year or so later, and bought them at that point. But yeah, this is actually quite good fun, and it surprisingly works really well on the joystick. You can just click and move intricately, which works really well. Obviously it's designed for a D-pad specifically, but it works nicely enough on this joystick. Ooh. There's not really much of a challenge in the opening race, but the later levels for sure get very challenging. I'm getting chased by a shark. Okay, next up we've got a Game Boy Color game. This is Conker's Pocket Tales. I guess it must seem a little bit strange. We've got a sort of Game Boy Color game playing on this kind of size screen, which sometimes doesn't always work because obviously the graphics do get a little bit blocky in nature and don't really seem natural in a fit here. I'm not really sure the screen ratio is a perfect fit for this, but it does look nice enough. This game is maybe average at best. At first it seems not that great when you sort of first start out, because you don't really have you don't have any weapons to start out. You just have this really weak punch, which doesn't really do anything. So once you get the slingshot, it definitely helps open up the game a little bit more. And it ends up being a bit of a wanderfest. Graphically, it's very rough. Like, you're not sure if this is someone that's going to help you or an enemy because the graphics are a little bit rough. But it's alright. It's worth of a quick bash, but it's nowhere near as good as like the Conker's games that were on the N64. Okay, on to some more Spectrum games. This is Gunfright, which is a isometric style western, so to speak, and you're really trying to sort of find the bad guys. They just press the A button to start to get started. Just ignore everything you see there. Don't forget to fire these money bags so that you can have enough money to pay for bullets, because it's very, very important. It feels okay on the joystick, but again, I think it feels like it was designed for a keyboard rather than a joystick. It feels a little bit cumbersome sometimes to play using this method. I know that sounds a bit crazy because obviously you had the option of joysticks on Spectrum, which a lot of people did, but a lot of these games, I think a lot of people did play using the keyboard, and it feels like that way we're all controlling it. Obviously it's not an 8-way, which I think this joystick is an 8-way, so it feels a bit awkward, maybe not quite perfect. This game's actually surprisingly good fun to sort of play. I'm not sure what these characters are. They look like men dressed up in dresses, to be honest. I'm not sure what's going on there. So I need to try and find the bad guys. There's characters pointing where you need to go. Oh, there's one. So I need to be quick to try and fire at him first before he fires at me. Oh, I got him. So joystick works quite well and quite quick there. It may be slightly quicker than the D-pad perhaps. There you go, so we're on to the next guy, Billy the Kid. Not bad, not quite perfect though for the Evercade Alpha, but it seems to work reasonably well. On to another Spectrum game. Now I know these will not be popular with everyone. I guess if you have nostalgia for these Spectrum games, you're going to absolutely love the fact that we've got these on Evercade at last. It feels like we should have had these back in 2020, but finally at least we've opened that door. But a lot of the games do feel dated. Now this one's quite cool because, as you can see, it does look very much like a single screen arcade style game. And yeah, you're really just utilising control using the B button to sort of hover, and then obviously the joystick to, sorry, the A button to hover and the B button to fire your laser. It seems to work pretty well. It's not overly complicated, so it works. And I say, you look at it, it does look like a really old arcade style game from sort of somewhere in the early 80s. Sound wise, absolutely horrible, to be honest. Now, I don't mean to be cruel to all your Spectrum fans out there. A lot of the Spectrum games had terrible, terrible sound. Something that the Commodore 64 excelled at. The sounds, generally in music, were fantastic. The Spectrum wasn't really renowned for sounds. But they had a lot of cool games, so don't dismiss some of these games just because they sound bad, because they play really well. We've got Night Lore, which is another isometric style game. Spectrum seem to have quite a lot of these style games on the system, which was quite cool. I don't really remember playing an awful lot of these on the Commodore 64 that I had, but yeah, a lot of them are quite tricky, but surprisingly, control-wise, absolutely fine. Just a bit like the other game that we played, sort of Gunfright. Seems fine, but probably not completely perfect. Probably more designed for a keyboard input rather than a joystick, but it feels okay. I think if we had a 4-way joystick rather than an 8-way, it might work a little bit better, perhaps, because I think the joystick's got a lot of movements that really the game isn't really recognising. Now here we have the sequel to Jetman. This is Lunar Jetman, a slightly different style game. You're trying to assemble a rocket or something. I'm not entirely sure what the point of the game is. All I know is the game is so frustrating to actually play. And I really didn't enjoy my experience while I was trying to play this game at all and try to work it out. I think I worked it out, but got frustrated because it's very, very difficult indeed to play. You need to have a lot of patience to get through this one. Now, if you see things like this, you need to get out, build a bridge over that, and then keep on going. I think you need to put the bomb on the back as well, and try and follow the directions here where you need to go. I guess you need to take the bomb to the base, the alien base, I think. But I need to have more patience to try and get through this game. Not my favourite at all, because it is a toughie. Next up, we've got another NES game. This is RC Pro-Am, and I really enjoyed this game playing it on the VS and the EXP. So let's have a quick bash on the Alpha. Hopefully the joystick inputs will be just as fine on this as well. Don't forget you've got bombs as well, which you can delay the progress of your opponents, which I guess is definitely something you need to do in certain of the later levels, because otherwise you're definitely not going to finish first, second or third to make that progress. But I have to say, this game works fantastically well on the joystick, considering it's not meant, or it was never meant for joystick control. It works really, really well. Maybe even arguably better than playing it on the D-pad. Okay, on to another Spectrum game. This is Sabre Wulf. And this one reminded me a lot like Robin in the Wood or Firelord, which is on one of the other Commodore 64 collections on Evercade. It's one of those games that probably will frustrate more than enjoy. And again, just like the other games like this, the joystick input seems a little bit oversensitive, perhaps. And that's just my feeling. It just feels like it's, yeah, just a little bit oversensitive. It'd be maybe nice if we could maybe dial that down just slightly. But I think ideally, if you're going to play some of these games, you might be better off inputting a joypad and playing it with the D-pad instead. It doesn't feel quite right. And it's not terrible, but there's something a little bit unnatural about it for me. It just doesn't have that same feel. I know it sounds a bit bonkers because these games you could play joystick or the Kimpston joystick on your Spectrum, but somehow it just doesn't feel quite right here. Lastly, we've got Underworld, which I think was the C64 version that we've got here. This is something of a bounce-a-thon game. Platforming game where you basically get bounced all over the place. Ignore what's saying on the screen there, just press start and you can begin. Now don't forget to pick up the lasso here. I think it's the X button, because without it you wouldn't have this to sort of fire at the enemies, and it makes the game unbelievably tough. Now if you fancy a challenge, ignore it and just try it, but you get bounced about all over the place and it just gets so frustrating. I have to say, I'm not a big fan of this game at all. Okay guys, that's a quick look at Rare Collection 1 on the Evercade Alpha. A bit of a mixed bag, I'd say, for the Alpha. Obviously you've only got one arcade game, which is perfect for this, but other than that, some of the games are a little bit hit and miss. Obviously you can play these games with another control method like a joypad, but I can't wholeheartedly recommend this collection if you have an Alpha. It's one of those ones you're going to have to weigh up. Are these games what you want to play on your Alpha? Otherwise, might be one to avoid. Anyway guys, thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.